I'm doing a quick review on the practice test for Unit 4. So I'm gonna quickly go through it so that for those of you who still need to practice a little bit more, or if you are absent and you still struggle with some of the question, this might help you. My suggestion, I know when I'm doing it, I'm going to do a lot of marking on the smartboard. But if you guys doing it on when you guys doing it on the computer, it's kind of difficult to do the marking. So redrawing the picture is going to be the best thing that you guys can do to make sure you pick the right answer. Your test only has 15 questions. If you miss more than 4, you guys going to get a bad grade. So instead of making those simple mistakes, please mark the angle based on what is given. So for the first problem on my test, I start with this problem. So what you guys need to do is when you're doing your practice test, find this problem and you do it, then go ahead and see if what I did and what you guys are doing is going to be correct, because my number one and your number one on your practice test is not going to be the same. So the first one is angle A is congruent to angle C. So I'll just mark it so that it makes it easier. Angle A is congruent to angle C. Then it says AD is congruent to BC. AD is congruent to BC. So this is an angle, this is a side. And the third one they gave me is AB, which is this side, is congruent to CD, which is this side. So by just marking what is given, you got the 3 information you needed. So it says therefore triangle ABD is congruent to CBD by, we have a side, an angle, and a side. The same thing here. You got a side, an angle, and a side. So that's what you guys have to use. All right. Number 2 starts here, says AB and BC bisect at X. So AB, meaning it also tells you here, AX is congruent to XB and CX is congruent to XD. Then it says which congruency statement is true. So you have to look at the choices that they gave you. So, in this case, they're talking about an angle. So for A, it says angle ACX. So when they do this, I'll start from A. ACX is this angle. Is congruent to BXD. BXD. That's what they're saying. This angle and this angle are congruent is what A is saying, and you can see that they are not. So you're going to cross that out. The next one is, let me erase this one so that you guys can see the next one. It says ACX. ACX is congruent to DXB. Again, DXB. Those are the one that they're saying that they are congruent. That's not true. So I'm looking at C, ACX. I guess I should have left the ACX part the same. ACX is congruent to BDX. So they're saying this angle is congruent to this angle, which I know this and this are congruent, and AX is congruent to XB. So is that true? Oh, I don't know, but let me check. So I'll put a question mark on this one. It is possible for them to be congruent, but I don't think in this triangle. So let me see what D is. D is ACX, which is the same angle here to DBX. Oh, sorry. So this one was, I'm sorry about that, guys. So the C was BDX. BDX. This one. So this more like it was what I was thinking. Those two are going to be congruent because I know this side is this side congruent. Therefore, the two angles are going to be congruent. So the answer should be C. So I see I read it wrong and I was going to make a mistake. So that's what you have to do. When it comes to number 3, this is an overlapping triangle. You will not be tested on in this test, but you will when we come back from the Thanksgiving break. We will do a day of review and we will have, a couple of questions to go over it. It says which can be used to prove that ABD, ABD, which is this triangle, is congruent to ACE. ACE, this triangle. So every time I have triangle like that, I would separate them to make it easier. So this is E, A, C. Then the triangle here is I have A, B, D. Then the given is AD is congruent to AC, and I have AB congruent to AE. And both of them share this angle here, A. So A is going to be congruent to this one. So once you mark it, you can tell that this is a side angle, side triangle. All right, number 4, this is also an overlapping triangle. This one is a little bit difficult uh, because the way they're giving you the information. But based on what they're saying, it says ACB, I'm sorry, ACB is congruent to uh, DBC. So these two triangles are congruent. So I know this side is going to be congruent to this side based on this. And I also know that angle A and angle D would be congruent. A and D are congruent. Then I would know that angle B is congruent to angle C. Okay, that I know. But it's not going to help me to prove any of the triangles congruent. So I'm just going to delete that one. So I'm just going to take the rest of the information out. So I know this is congruent to this, and I know this angle is congruent to this angle, right? Based on the given information on top. So now the question is, I'm going to label the triangles 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so so that it makes it easier for you guys to see. So which two triangles are going to be congruent? Angle 1 and 2 or 3 and 4? So 1 and 2 clearly are not congruent because the opposite side are not, this side which is AD and BC are not congruent. You can see that easily. It's an isosceles trapezoid. But if you look at 3 and 4, they have a side that they both have as congruent, and they have an angle, and they also have a vertical angle that they share, that they both have. So it's going to be AAS, AAS. So because of angle side, 3 and 4 are going to be congruent. So find out which triangle represent triangle 3 and 4 and pick that answer. Here, M is the midpoint of LN and KP. So knowing M is the midpoint of LN, I know this side is congruent to this, and I know this is congruent to this one. That's the first thing I would do. Given the given information is sufficient to prove that KML. So where is this triangle? Because you see so many triangles, it makes easier if you guys uh, mark your triangles. KML is congruent to PML. PMN is this triangle. That's what I'm trying to prove. So I already have two sides. This side is congruent to this side is congruent to this. The only thing they didn't tell me is that the vertical angles are congruent because they cross each other. So you can see that they are vertical. So because of angle side, I can say the two triangles are congruent. All right, this is number 6. It says which can be used to prove that the triangles are congruent. They give you an angle. So this is given to be congruent. You give you a side, and you also know that this is going to be a common side, right? So I have S, and I have another S and A, or I have ASS, which is not part of the 5 postulates we discussed about. So this one would be not enough information, right? That's what D is, yeah. That's what you guys have to do. All right, number 7, it says which triangle below is not congruent to the other 3 triangles. That means 3 of them are going to be congruent. So the first thing you need to do is find out the missing angle. They gave you 72, they gave you 41. So when you add this two, subtract it from 180, you get 67. The same thing here, this would be 72. I got 67, 42, 72, so this is 41. And the last one I got 6741, so this was going to be 72 because a triangle always add up to 180 degree. Then the next thing I'm going to do is they give you a side, which is 10, right? And all of them. So where is this 10 located? 10 is between 72 and 67 here for A, right? But for B, it's between 67 and 41. This 10 is located. And 10 here for C is between 67 and 72. 10 here is between 67 and 72. So when you look at all three, which is A, C, and D, they all have the 10 located between 67 and 72, with the exception of B. All right, for this problem number 8, it's just simple. Okay, which two triangles are going to be congruent? My suggestion for you to make it easier, like P is one marking is going to be congruent with G. So I'll just write them down like this. Q with I and R is with H. So whatever P is, G need to be. P is the first one, so G need to be the first one. Then R is the second one, so H should have been, right? R with H. It's not, so I can't pick this one. P and G, the first one. This one has R and H in the same location, so that's the one. Of course, Q and I would be the next one. So just take your time and do this. So this are the easy one that you shouldn't miss. The same thing with number 9. Mark it and see if you guys can find it. Number 10, it's also another easy one, but you have to remember they did not give you any the picture, right? You don't see any picture on both pages. So what I recommend is go ahead and draw your own picture and label it RGA the same way the two triangles are labeled. So this is RGA and this one is PMC. Okay, then it says um, RG is congruent to PM. It's given here, right? Then RA is congruent to PC. Then angle R is congruent to angle P. So when you mark it, you can easily see this is going to be a side, an angle, and a side. All right, number 11, which of the following must be true for KLM and NOP to be congruent by side, angle, side? So they gave you always have to start what is given. They gave you a side and angle. Same thing, they gave me a side and angle. So I'm missing a third side, right? So I'm missing this side to be congruent to this side because the angle need to be included between the two. All right, another overlapping triangle. You won't see it on this test, but if you know, just for your knowledge, the best thing to do is separate the triangles. So I have RST, so R here, S, and T would be here. And the other one is RWZ, right? So RWZ. So I have RWZ. Then based on what is given marked, I knew these two sides are going to be were congruent, right? Was given to be congruent. That means RZ is congruent to RT that was given. And I knew that RS and RW are going to be congruent, right? RS and RW are going to be congruent. And they both share a common angle, which is R. So when you mark it like this, you can easily see which two triangles are going to be congruent. This is an isosceles trapezoid. It says prove that ADC, ADC is congruent to BCD. B, B, C, D. So you can clearly see that they both have a common side here that they both share, but let's see what they say they gave us. They say AD is congruent to BC. They say DC is congruent to CD by reflexive property. And then they said angle ADC, which is this angle here, is congruent to BCD, congruent to BCD here. So if you kind of take out the green triangle, it's kind of this one, right? B, C, and D. So this is the angle, this is the side, and this is the side. So you can clearly, this is going to be SAS, right? All right. Uh, the number 14 is also 4.1 when we talked about congruent triangles. So this is the main thing you have to focus because the orientation of this triangle is not the same. You see 7 is here, congruent to DF. So kind of have to flip it. So what the question is asking you is for you to solve for x. So you can decide to solve for this x or this x. It doesn't matter which one you pick. Let's pick the 3x minus 7, which is EF. So I'm going to look at EF is congruent to AC, and AC is here. So those two sides are going to be congruent. So all you have to do is 8 equals to 3x minus 7. And then you go ahead and solve for x. And the same thing with this problem, but this one is, I think the orientation is the same. AB, so AB is congruent to DE, is congruent to this side. So you can solve for that. Then it says BC, BC is congruent to EF, which is this side. Then AC is congruent to DF. So whichever two you want, you can say 16 equals to 6x minus 2, or you can say 28 equals to 4x plus 16. Whichever way you do it, the x would be the same for in both cases. All right, this is similar to what we did, I think, at the beginning, but the information they gave you is a little bit different. A is congruent to C, or is it the same? A is congruent to C, AB is congruent to CD, and then they said, this is very important, AB is parallel, so I have to mark it this way, parallel to CD. And then when lines are parallel, also the interior angles are congruent. So they're actually giving you what makes this, why would they give you a parallel line? So when you know that the two lines are parallel, it says ABD is congruent to CDB. So they give you this angle. So I have, I guess let's mark it this way so that it doesn't confuse it. So I have A congruent to C. I have AB congruent to CD. So it's ASA. So ASA is what I have to prove these two triangles are congruent based on the given information. So this is an overlapping triangle. It's asking you, let's read the question before I assume what the question. Using the diagram below, which of the following is true? So you have to kind of see which one is going to be true. So it says AEB. So AEB is, I guess this is E, right? AEB, triangle AEB is congruent to CEB. They're saying CEB. Are they congruent? So for you to say they are congruent, you have to have enough information. So I have a side, I have an angle, and I have a side. So by side, angle, side, side, angle, side. Yeah, they're going to be congruent. So I can pick A as my answer and then move on. All right, this question is, I'm not gonna do it because it takes time to do this one. It says given ABC and XYZ and using the coordinate below, ABC, which is the length of XYZ. So XZ. So one thing you need to know, XZ is gonna be congruent to AC, right? So what you have to do is find the length between AC using the distance formula. You remember your distance formula? X2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. You have to memorize this by now. We are in Unit 4. We start learning about distance in Unit 1. So that's what you have to do to find it. All right, 19 is the same. It says on the coordinate plane. And again, coordinates would not be on this test. It would be a quiz when you come back from the Thanksgiving break. We'll just spend one day only on coordinates and overlapping triangle. Then you have a time to actually be quizzed on this kind of question. So it says which set of distance below define a triangle that is congruent to this triangle. So what you guys have to do is um, it says the coordinate of plane triangle ABCD. So you have to find the distance of AB the same way we did earlier. You have to find the distance of BC, and you have to find the distance of AC. So whatever distance you find here has to be the same here because if two triangles are congruent, then the sides are going to be congruent. That's what you have to do. I say which postulate or theorem, if any, could be used to prove that the triangles are congruent. So this is a right triangle. So the minute I think of a right triangle, I'll look at if the hypotenuses are given to be congruent. In this case, they are. This is congruent to this, and I have a leg. So this is easily hypotenuse leg, right? 21, which of the following reason complete the given proof? TR is congruent to VR. So they say this is congruent to this. S is the midpoint. So the minute I know S is the midpoint, I knew this is going to be congruent to this. So then I have a common side here, right? They both share. So prove SRT is congruent to SRV. So I know this is going to be side, side, side. Uh, So I'll look at the choice to tell me. So this is kind of filling the definition. So TS is congruent to VS. So you have to kind of go back to, so TS and VS, that's congruent because of the definition of midpoint. So before I even look down, I'll just say, okay, this is definition of midpoint. SR congruent to SR. This is reflexive, right? The two triangles are congruent by side, side, side. Uh, So all of them has side, side, side. Definition of midpoint. There's not symmetry. It's not definition of bisector. So it has to be D. Oh, so this is the same thing. It says that it's the same kind of problem earlier, but they're asking you what goes here. So definition of midpoint tells me that TS is congruent to SV. Reflexive tells me that RS is congruent to RS. Then I could say the triangle congruent to the other triangle by side, side, side. Okay, and I think that's what it is. It says ABC with a diagonal AC. So you can see this one is also another side, 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 but the question is asking you complete the proof ABC by selecting the reason for the last two statements. So the first two would be the given information, right? And the last two information would be AC is congruent to AC by reflexive. Then I could say triangle ADC is congruent to triangle uh, CBA, right? By side, side, side. This is three lines, sorry. So reflexive property is one of them. So this is kind of a multi-select one. Then you just put side, side, side. All right, triangle ABE, ADE, and BCE are shown in the coordinate grid. So you won't see this question on the test, but when we go over it, coordinate proof, I'll show you how we can easily do the problem. But technically, what they want you to do is they want you to find the distance of AD, which you can count, BC, CE, EC, EA, and AB, and see if the N also BE. So you have to do all those distance. But I'll show you how to use the patty paper to do this easily in class. The same thing with this one. It's a coordinate question. Says CDA is congruent to ABC. What are the coordinates of point D? So you have to, you can also plot it, or you have to do distance to find it. And again, when we go over coordinates, I'll show you how to do it. I think I skipped one here. All right, given in this figure, AC and BD bisect each other. Since it says bisect each other, I know AE is congruent to EC and DE is congruent to BE. Based on the information given, which triangle congruent theorem could use to prove that AED is congruent. So you also know that these two angles are going to be congruent by a vertical angle. So this is the bow tie one. I'm sure you guys by now could figure it out. 27 is a very tricky one. It's not something we're used to. They wanted you to show them or come up with the reason if ABE, which is ABC, I'm sorry, is congruent to AED. So in this one, if this is 60, I know this is 120, right? So I could use side, angle, side, because I have side, angle, side. And I also know that this side is congruent to this is congruent to this. Knowing that both of them are fine, I also know that this side is congruent to this side. So the answer would be A, yes, by side, 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 or side, angle, side. Must you know to prove that the triangles are congruent by side, angle, side? I have a side and an angle, a side and an angle. So I'm missing the third side. So I need this side, AD, congruent to BC. So that it would be side, angle, side, side, angle, side. 29. Okay, based on the given information, what other piece of information is needed to prove that the two triangles are congruent by ASA? So this one is a little bit different than what we've been doing. ASA, so you always start with what is given. They gave you angle E is congruent to angle I. They gave you that EG, no, yeah, EG, where's EG? EG is congruent to GI, which is this one. So I need ASA. ASA, which would be this angle here, the vertical angle. So it's it's vertical angle is what we have to pick. So FGE is congruent to HGI by vertical angle. So the last one is what is missing information. Oh, the last one is what is missing. Okay, so let's see what is given. It says MO bisect PMN, MO PMO bisect PMN. So that means this angle is congruent to this one. And it tells you here PMO is congruent to NMO. And it says this is congruent by reflexive property. And OM bisect PON. So now I have this angle congruent to this angle. I think that's enough information, right? I have an A, I have a side, I have an A. I have an A, I have a side, and A. So ASA would be the one you have to use. All right, so this concludes the review, right? I don't have any more questions, study questions. So I hope this is helpful for you guys to do well on your test. I know it's 30 minutes video, but just, I hope you watch it right before you take the test and do well on it. Have, have a happy and great Thanksgiving.